It took all my self-control not to yell at her. I hoped it wouldn't come to that, but she just wouldn't stop. It had been 3 months since she first brought it up. I blew her off then, and for the next 9 attempts she made. My wife Emma tried to talk me into sleeping with her sister Arnett. Arnett's husband had died 5 years ago, and she had been living with us ever since. She was a few years younger than Emma and not bad-looking, but she wasn't my wife. I guess I'm a little old-fashioned, but I foolishly believed in the sanctity of marriage. When Emma first brought it up, I was adamant in my refusal, but she was not impressed. About once a week, Emma brought it up again, and I always refused. I wasn't trying to hurt Arnett's feelings by turning her down. I just didn't think it was the right thing to do. I was also a little embarrassed because she was perfectly capable of finding a man outside the house. She was pretty, smart, and had a nice body. In fact, it was better than Emma's. It took me a while, but eventually I figured it out. Smart people probably would have realized what was going on right away, but I was a little naive and too trusting. Once I realized what was really going on, my whole demeanor changed. On the surface, Emma was telling me that she wanted me to help her sister get rid of her sexual dysfunction, but I actually perceived it a little differently. From my perspective, Emma was either having an affair and was looking for a way to make up for her infidelity by luring me into a similar trap, or she was planning to have an affair once I succumbed to Arnett's charms. Both of those possibilities were unacceptable. Frankly, I promised myself I'd ignore her whining for 3 months or 10 more. If she stopped by then, I would forget everything that had happened. Our son Rob joined the Navy 3 years ago, and we've only been able to see him occasionally. Bethany, our daughter, got married and moved to Cleveland. We never got to see her. I think with the children gone, our marriage became boring. I'm sure to some extent it was my fault. Ever since we got married, I've been working the same job. I worked the night shift, midnight to 8, at the Acme Market warehouse on the outskirts of town. Over the years, I worked my way up to the position of supervisor. Not many employees wanted to work that shift, but I loved it. When I got home, I usually slept until late in the evening. Emma had the whole day left to do whatever she wanted to do. I never checked up on her because I didn't think it was necessary. If Emma was having an affair, I had no way of knowing about it. I'm sure other men would have come up with all sorts of elaborate ways to prove her infidelity, but whenever I tried to think of something, I failed. Even though Emma hadn't done anything yet, I no longer felt I could trust her. Her insistence that I sleep with Arnett was the only proof I needed. I began to ponder the possible alternatives. If I left, and I was going to, where would I go? What would I do? How would I support myself? How much money would I have enough for? How much money could I raise before I left? Would I leave anything to Emma? Should I get a divorce or just walk away? Would I be legally responsible for Emma's maintenance? A computer would have given me access to the answers I needed, but I didn't have one. The limit of my technical skills was learning how to use a cell phone and an ATM. Okay, I'll do it. Emma didn't answer anything right away. She seemed shocked by my answer. I could tell she didn't expect it, however, she was smiling. I will spend Saturday night with her. I'll do whatever she wants, as long as it's not too kinky. Oh, thank you, John. You don't know how grateful I am to you. She stammered a little. I mean Arnett, of course. She seemed to blush at her reservation. Is this a one-off, or are you both expecting some sort of encore? If you don't mind, John, maybe 2 or 3 times a month? I think you're man enough to handle it, and I know Arnett would appreciate it. I still don't understand why she can't just go out and find a man like any other woman. John, there are plenty of sneaky guys out there who would take advantage of her. She can trust you, and I know for a fact that you can make her happy. I thought she winked when she said that, and it pissed me off. Okay, Chuckles. I'll leave it up to you. You have to let her know and get everything ready. I don't want to do this in our bedroom. Other than that, I don't care. Do you want me to wear a condom? No, I don't think that's going to be necessary. So Saturday night came, and I have to say, Arnett was much better in bed than Emma. While I wasn't proud of what I was doing, I was definitely enjoying myself. I know Arnett did too. Emma was just seething with pleasure. She seemed to be more pleased with the whole situation than Arnett and I were. This pretty much convinced me that I was right about her affair or potential affair. Monday morning I got up awake. Emma threw me an odd look as I left the house. It was unusual considering the shift I was working. Of course, this was all about to come to an end. On my way to work, I had the country and western radio station rattling. I usually turned the radio on low volume, if at all. Miranda Lambert started singing a song called Kerosene. I couldn't make out all the words, but I caught the gist of the song, and it gave me an idea. Light them up and watch them burn. Teach them what they need to learn. Before I got to work, I hummed that damn song to myself and continued to do so throughout the day. When I walked into the warehouse office, I really started to feel good about myself. I had made a decision and I was going to stick to it. I had given notice about quitting my job, but decided it was a little early to do anything about it. There was no longer any great mystery about what needed to be done, and since I had it all worked out in my head, it was going to work out pretty quickly. I was going to take it all on. I wasn't going to leave anything to Emma. This was her reward for infidelity, which I still wasn't sure about. That night at dinner, Emma informed me that we would be going to the dance at the community center the following Saturday. She promised to have my sports jacket ready. I thought she was overly enthusiastic about the whole thing. That night, I went to work for the last time. I said goodbye to all my friends and put my desk and locker in order. They had prepared severance pay and checks for unused vacation for me. I was going to fake it for the rest of the week. By Friday night, I had everything ready to go. Arnett cast ingratiating glances at me several times during the week, but I didn't give in to their entreaties. Neither of them noticed that I had stowed about half of all the clothes I had in the trunk of my car. I sold off all my tools and lawn equipment. First thing Monday morning, I went to an interview at Monarch Foods in Pensacola. I had no idea what to expect at the dance on Saturday night, but I was pretty sure that's when I would truly understand what was going on. As soon as we got to the community center, I wanted to leave. My wife was already getting ready to give me the horns, and I wasn't happy about it. There was little I could do to undo what she had probably already done, but I couldn't let the world think I was happy with the situation. First, I had to figure out who this guy was. Naturally, the three of us made reservations for 4. I danced with Emma and then with Arnett. As I danced with my sister-in-law, I noticed that Tom Kendricks had asked Emma to dance. Tom was our local heating and air conditioning specialist. He owned his own business and serviced most of the people in our neighborhood. His wife passed away about 2 years ago. When we got back to the table, Tom and Emma were already there. "John, you know Tom. I invited him to join us since he's all alone tonight. It's all right, isn't it?" It was all I could do not to punch him right in the face, but I didn't. I forced out a smile, nodding slightly. For the next hour or so, the 4 of us had a nice time at the table and on the dance floor. I had no problem seeing where this was going, and I didn't like it one bit. On my way to the men's room, I made a slight detour and exited through the side fire exit. It was a good time for a smoke break. Smoking used to be commonplace in public places and other public buildings, but not anymore. Just outside the door were a few other guys using tobacco products. We exchanged a few pleasantries, and I walked out to the side parking lot. I needed some alone time to think and decide what I was going to do. After about an hour, I expected Emma to announce that she and Tom were going to leave together. Since I had committed the first sin by sleeping with Arnett, there was no way I could object to her leaving with him. I was trapped unless I resorted to a direct assault, which I didn't want to do. As I crossed the parking lot, I noticed the hood of my car was open. It was weird. My first thought was that someone had stolen the battery from my car. Instead of rushing over to him, I watched from the shadows and slowly got closer. Whoever it was tried to silently close the hood. In the silence of the night, that was pretty hard to do. I watched as he reached the corner of the parking lot and got into Kendrick's car. What the hell was that? I stood still until the cigarette butt I held in my hand burned my fingers. He didn't seem to have taken anything with him, so what was he doing? I pulled my mini flashlight out of the glove compartment and opened the hood. I'd never seen anything like this before. It was 2 checkers, or something I mistook for dynamite, and something else wrapped in a lot of duct tape. It was right on the engine, and there were 2 wires coming out of it. One wire was connected to the spark plug wire with an alligator clip, and the other wire was just connected to the engine as a ground. Pretty darn simple. Nothing could go wrong. I disconnected the alligator clips and connected the spark plug. Taking a screwdriver out of the glove compartment, I started looking for the red Lincoln that Tom Kendricks drove around like he was king of the world. Opening the hood of a car with a screwdriver is pretty easy if you know where the latch is located. I didn't know at first, so it took me a while, but eventually I figured it out. A minute later, Tom Kendricks was the lucky recipient of the same gift as me. I slammed the hood shut, not caring if anyone could hear me. No one did. I was supposed to leave the dance in a few hours, but my calculations had me leaving with Arnett while Tom and Emma left together. This meant that Arnett had been chosen to die at the same time as me. Arnett was Emma's sister. Did that mean Emma didn't realize what was going on, or did it mean she was aware but didn't care? I smoked another cigarette before going back inside and had a long chat with a few other guys who couldn't kick the habit either. Just in case, I switched from alcohol to Coca-Cola for the rest of the evening. I wanted to keep my composure for the rest of the evening. I felt sorry for Arnett. She was being used, and she didn't deserve it. It didn't look like I was going to get a chance to talk to Emma, so I invited Arnett to spin around on the dance floor. Arnett, was I being set up? Should I be upset about what's going on? I don't know what to say to that, John. Is Emma planning on going home with us tonight, or is she planning on going home with Kendricks? I don't have to say anything. Does that mean what I said is going to happen? Arnett shrugged and gave me a goofy grin. The answer was yes, but she couldn't bring herself to say it out loud. Does it bother you that much, John? Arnett, she used both of us to get together with Kendricks. It was a disgusting act. I didn't mind, but I told her she shouldn't do that to you. She said it was fine and that I shouldn't worry about it. She said you'll be happy. How does she plan to do that? I'm not sure. I think they are just going to tell us they are leaving, and do it. As I walked my sister-in-law back to the table, my thoughts went into overtime. I still wasn't sure if Emma knew about the bomb or not. The soda was acting on my kidneys as fast as the beer, so I had to make another trip to the bathroom. I took my time. When I got out, I looked across the hall and saw Emma and Arnett arguing, and Kendricks was pulling Emma by the arm, trying to get her to leave the building with him. Of course, I had no way of knowing what the argument was about, but it was heated. Emma looked across the dance floor and saw me watching her from the far wall. She gave me a grimace, then let out a few last words to her sister. Arnett cried as Emma and Kendricks walked out of the community center. I'm not exactly a stand-up guy. I didn't know exactly what had happened, but I felt sorry for Arnett. She was more than receptive as I opened my arms to comfort her. Arnett tried to say something, but she only sobbed, and I couldn't understand a word she was saying. I finally sat her down and gave her a sip of Coke. Now take your time and tell me why you're so upset. John, when you got up to go to the bathroom, Emma and Kendrick started to leave. They were giggling like two kids. I grabbed Emma's hand and told her not to go. I said that you were concerned that she might do that and that you didn't like it. She laughed at me and said it was too late. The more I argued with her, the angrier she got. Finally, she said I was as stupid as you and that we were worth each other. And then she saw you at the other end of the room. As they left, they both laughed. Arnett cried again, and I held her head against my shoulder just as the explosion shook the whole building. The lights flickered and tiles fell from the drop ceiling, and the whole building shook. Neon signs sprinkled from the walls, and everyone screamed. I had to grin to myself because I was the only one who knew what had just happened. Set them on fire and watch them burn. Teach them what they need to learn. Now I understood what Miranda was singing about. Well, the rest of the evening went pretty interesting. I thought I might get the police interested, but I guess that never happened. Before the end of the evening, the police had an extensive interview with one of Kendrick's employees who had been seen driving through the parking lot earlier. They got a confession of sorts from him, but not quite what they were hoping for. Anyway, they weren't interested in me anymore. I drove Arnett home and made coffee. She couldn't sleep after everything that had happened. She sat quietly on the couch with her hands folded in her lap as I handed her a hot cup. Her eyes were red from crying, but I wasn't sure what she was crying about. She took a sip and stopped talking because the drink was too hot. John, thank you for taking care of me tonight. I really appreciate what you did. I'm sorry about Emma. I'm really sorry. What she did was wrong, but she didn't deserve to die. The poor woman had no idea how close she came to being the victim of it all. She was deceived just as I was. How could two sisters be so different? I had my plans, but what was I supposed to do now? There was no way I was expecting this. I held out a napkin for her to wipe her eyes. Arnett, have you ever been to Pensacola?